Hey guys, HDV here. Now, over the past few months, there's been a lot of speculation on whether the 4th generation games, Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl, would be getting remakes in the near future. Of course, this would be an incredible thing to happen, and I'm sure that most of you guys agree with me when I say that. I even made a video going over all of the hints and references in Pokemon Sun and Moon that link with the idea that Pokemon Diamond and Pearl remakes could be on the way, and you guys seem to really like it. However, this isn't the only set of games that have been rumoured to be having a remake in the near future. The 1st generation games, Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue, have also been in the spotlight due to the unsolved questions in Pokemon Sun and Moon, all of which we'll be going over in today's video. I also know that there are a couple of Kanto Easter eggs in Sun and Moon simply because it is the 20th anniversary of Pokemon, but they still all help point towards the possibility of a remake. With that being said, today's video takes a look at all of the hints and references in Pokemon Sun and Moon that point towards the possibility of the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes. I feel like I found most of them through all the research that I've done, but if I have missed a small hint or reference, then please leave it in the comment section below after watching the video. I'd love to know if you guys have come across anything. With introductions out of the way though, let's get into the video and I hope that you enjoy. Our first reference for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is at the very beginning of the 7th generation games, your character themselves. The player character in Pokemon Sun and Moon and his or her family have moved to Alola from the Kanto region. Maybe the remakes of Pokemon Red and Blue see your character move back to Kanto after finishing with the Alola region, trying to become the league champion there too. It's definitely a possibility and also boosts the idea that the 1st generation could indeed get remakes in the future. The second reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is the appearance of the Kanto Pokemon League champions Red and Blue. Now, as you most likely are all aware of by now, the trainers Red and Blue from Kanto both make an appearance in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon. In order to meet these characters, you'll need to make your way to the battle tree. However, to get to the battle tree you'll need to become the champion of Alola and then head to the Pony Gauntlet through the Pony Coast. Once you get to the Pony Gauntlet, you'll run into Blue and Red and they will challenge you to a battle. You have to choose which to face off against and be prepared because both are extremely strong. Starting off with Red, he has his classic team all coming in at high level 60s and so is clearly no pushover. Starting things off with a level 70 Pikachu, his team also consists of a Lapras, a Snorlax and the 3 Kanto starters being Charizard, Venusaur and a Blastoise. These Pokemon are of course pretty tough to take down, which comes as no surprise to the legendary Pokemon trainer Red. If you don't choose to battle Red, then you'll have to take on Blue in order to access the battle tree. Blue's team isn't as high leveled as Red's team, but still consists of some pretty powerful Pokemon. All of Blue's team are level 65 and contains the likes of Alakazam, Machamp, Aerodactyl, Exeggutor, Arcanine and a Gyarados. So as you can see, both trainers have a very formidable team and it won't be an easy task getting past them. But again, a nice little reference to Kanto, seeing as 2 of the most iconic characters of the 1st generation games make an appearance in Pokemon Sun and Moon. The third reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon are what some of the NPC characters say in Heya City. In the 7th generation games, it is said that Heya City was formed by people who travelled in Kanto and Johto long ago and came together in the Alola region. As well as this, a sightseer in Heya City says that he wants to document all the differences between Diglett's Tunnel in Alola and Diglett's Cave in Kanto. Again, 2 clear references to Kanto, and with so many characters moving between the 2 regions of Kanto and Alola, it does make you wonder if maybe our own character might be going back there too someday soon. The 4th reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is the Nugget Bridge. During your playthrough of Pokemon Sun and Moon, you will come across countless characters, objects and events that all reference the Kanto region, where Pokemon obviously began. However, one of the most obvious references would have to be the Nugget Bridge. Players will see 5 trainers waiting on a yellow bridge at the Melee Garden, which is located to the north of Melee City. In order to move forward, the player has to beat each one of them before finally squaring off against the trainer at the end of the bridge. Before the fight starts, the trainer will ask the player if he or she would like to join Team Rocket. After beating the trainer, the player will get a big nugget. What's even crazier though is the fact that all of the trainers on this bridge have the exact same Pokemon that the trainers used on the actual Nugget Bridge back in Kanto. So clearly another huge hint towards Kanto and the idea that a remake could be on its way. The fifth reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon refers to the power plant back in Kanto. A poster within the geothermal power plant on Blush Mountain talks about the Kanto power plant. It mentions some of the events in the Johto section of the series, specifically about how the loss of the machine part put the entire plant out of operation. It also goes on to say that the legendary Pokemon Zapdos appeared there once. This isn't the only poster that references Kanto in Pokemon Sun and Moon. A woman in the Hawaii City Mall next to a poster says, "Hey, under this poster, there's nothing." Of course there's no switch, silly, referencing the secret switch under the poster in the Rocket game corner that gave access to the Rocket hideout. So, 2 more hints leading back to 2 major events that took place in the Kanto region. The 6th reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is featured in the Aether Paradise. An NPC at Aether Paradise mentions that her group is there to study how things are done there, and compares it to how things are done at the Safari Zone in Fuchsia City. Another NPC in Aether Paradise then goes on to mention that the PC boxes for the Pokemon storage system were developed by Bill in the Kanto region. He adds that Bill is apparently a real Pokemon maniac, referring to a big character back in Kanto, and again gives us a bit more hope for remakes of Pokemon Red and Pokemon Blue. The 7th reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is to do with the 7th generation games professor, Professor Kukui. Professor Kukui tells the player about his travels in the Kanto region and how he challenged the Pokemon League there, again showing more travelling between the 2 regions, Kanto and Alola, which could point towards a remake. The 8th reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon is Alolan Oak. Through your travels in Pokemon Sun and Moon, you will meet Samson Oak, who is a Pokemon researcher in Alola. He studies the regional variants of the region. He is a cousin of Professor Oak, with whom he shares a striking resemblance. Samson Oak is first met in Melee City on Yula Yula Island in Sun and Moon, when the player's Rotom Dex recognizes him. He tells the player about his research on regional variants and asks them to come meet him in Melee Library. A huge link towards Professor Oak, one of the biggest names in Pokemon, is always nice to see to help boost the idea of remakes for Pokemon Red and Blue. The next 2 references or hints for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon are quite small, and so have been bunched together for this next part. Firstly, one phrase that the player may receive from the Johto tent at the Festival Plaza is, "You better have a burn heal." This line is also spoken by Blaine before his gym battle, so a nice little reference to one of Kanto's gym leaders. The second reference or hint is that on Route 14, a hiker mentions how he once saw a Pikachu that could use Surf, linking back to Pokemon Yellow's startup screen of Pikachu riding a surfboard, which was always fun to see. Our last reference or hint for the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon for today's video is probably the biggest, and it is Lily returning to Kanto. Now I can't be alone in feeling a little miffed at Lily's heavy tease at the end of Pokemon Sun and Moon. After a long journey around Alola with the player character and having engaged in her fair share of family drama, Professor Kukui's assistant embarks for Kanto, the iconic setting for Pokemon Red, Blue and Yellow, and home to Ash Ketchum in the anime series. As well as all of the huge references to the first generation games throughout Pokemon Sun and Moon, there were also multiple questions left unanswered in Pokemon Sun and Pokemon Moon that all lead to Kanto, such as what happens to Lily and Lusamine after the latter's Ultra Beast splicing encounter. Does Bill have a cure? Surely a Pokemon Red and Blue remake would tell us the answers. They can't just leave the story of one of the main characters in Pokemon Sun and Moon on a cliffhanger like they have done, and a remake would definitely help tie up all of the unanswered questions. But with that, wraps up this video. I really hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you did enjoy the video though, please leave a like, I'd really appreciate it. Like I said at the start of the video, if you know any other possible hints to the Pokemon Red and Blue remakes in Pokemon Sun and Moon that didn't make the list, then be sure to leave it in the comment section below. I also have a couple top 5s coming onto your screen in a second, so be sure to give them a watch if you have the time, and also subscribe if you like my content. That's everything from me though, so thanks for watching guys, have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video.